There's been a major breakthrough in the investigation into the murder of Cairns woman Toyah Cordingley. Reporter Steve Hart joins us live. Steve, police have...
Uh-oh. What's going on? We have buffering, people. I apologise. Hang on a sec. Great start, Groovers. I'll just mute through this ad. Take two.
There's been a major breakthrough in the investigation into the murder of Cairns woman Toyah Cordingley. Reporter Steve Hart joins us live. Steve, police have made an arrest in India.
Yes, Steve, the lengthy manhunt is over, with officers arresting their main suspect, Rajwinder Singh. Now, security vision had been released of Singh boarding a plane bound for India just days after 24-year-old Toyah was killed on a beach near Cairns. They also offered a $1 million reward just weeks ago for information, particularly in relation to Singh's whereabouts. And Singh was a nurse in Innisfail at the time, but quickly left behind his job and family. Our Commissioner Katarina Carroll has spoken. She says today's breakthrough was not a matter of if, but when.
She was a beautiful, much-loved person, just innocently going about her day. Even though it has been 4 years, I am so pleased we can now make further progress in bringing closure to her family.
The authorities here had been working closely with the Indian government to lock down an extradition order before officers finally flew to India recently, determined to get their man.
So, yes, big news in Australia this week regarding the senseless murder of Toyah Cordingley. Hi, Miss Kay. Just going to do a quick live. Somebody commented under one of my videos wanting a bit of a timeline of this story. And it's a pretty interesting one because it does involve extradition of the person of interest who's now been arrested, Rajwinder Singh, who was named as a POI 4 years ago. And like that report just said, he pretty much fled the country, left his job, his family behind, and went to India. In only 3 weeks since the Queensland Government increased the reward amount to $1 million for information leading to his arrest. So it only took 3 weeks. He has been arrested, but now we are waiting, I guess, for him to be extradited back to Australia, and it may not be, unfortunately, as speedy a process as I was hoping. The first hearing regarding the extradition is on the 5th of December, so I'll be covering that then. Hey, BR the Star. So this is really a live just to tell you about beautiful Toyah Cordingley and her very senseless murder, because I do want to cover more Australian crimes. And this is one that really bugged me, like innocent people just going about their day and being murdered, and it taking 4 years. It has been a long 4 years, I would imagine, for her family. It probably feels like 400 years. So it's exciting news, but there's still a very long way to go. And I will need to do a lot more research into extradition law, but I'll cover that a little bit tonight. But it's really just to tell Toyah's story. And one of my subscribers was very interested in sort of knowing the timeline. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. I can just get the first story back up. That news article was from 7 News in Australia, and interestingly, that was Stephen Titmus, the announcer, who I know personally. He's a Tasmanian. In fact, his daughter, Ariana, won gold medals for swimming at the Olympics. Amazing athlete. But anyway, that's not anything to do with Toyah's story, just a bit of trivia. So this is pretty distressing content. There is actually a warning on the article that I'm going to be reading through. You remember this case, Miss Kay? Yeah, it's one of those ones you just want justice for her. There's an unsolved cold case in Tasmania involving an Italian tourist who was a girl called Victoria Cafasso, who was murdered on a beach up on the East Coast. And to this day, it remains unsolved. And it's one of the first true crime cases that really hooked me in, I guess partly because it was a local story. And I was terrified that the same thing was going to happen with Toyah, but there's a lot of movement happening in the right direction. I know we can take a BR the Star, just out of respect if anyone wanders in, because it's pretty graphic content. See? Distressing, in fact. And I didn't know this part of the story. This is information that's come out because they've arrested the POI. I want to keep calling him a POS because that suits. Yeah, there we go. So according to recent interviews, I'm assuming Indian media have reported that Rajwinder Singh stabbed Toyah to death on a beach in Queensland after an argument over her dog. Apparently her dog started barking at him and he murdered her. The dog probably sensed he was a bad dude. He'd had a fight with his wife and he went to the beach, and unfortunately for Toyah, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her dog barked at him and, yeah, he brutally murdered her. So he has been arrested. He's been held in New Delhi. He's always only been the only suspect in her death. The fact that he took off not long after it happened and left his own family and job and fled back to India looked pretty suspicious. It happened on October the 21st, 2018, so it's just over 4 years since it happened. Not just over, I mean, it's terrible that it's been 4 years since it happened, but we've just gone past the 4-year anniversary on Wangedi Beach, which is north of Cairns in Queensland. Now, Singh was a nurse, well, still is a nurse, in fact. He went to the beach that day from his home in Innisfail. He had a fight with his wife. He told this to the Indian police in an interview, and multiple local news outlets have been reporting this. At the time, he was carrying a kitchen knife and some fruit. Now, whether he was, I don't know, planning on going to the beach to just cool off after a fight with his wife and he was going to cut the fruit and eat it. It's not unusual. I like my fruit cut. I don't like biting into an apple. I used to, but I don't these days. I like cutting it up. And there she was, unfortunately, and paid the price because of this man's uncontrollable rage. Yeah, it was. Yeah, isn't it beautiful, Toyah? It was a forgotten case, I think, because they knew he fled back to India. And, I mean, India, if you want to go and hide somewhere, there's mountain ranges. You can disappear up into the mountains, never to be seen again. The chances of finding him were very slim. It really, I think, did take increasing the reward to $1 million. The fact that that only happened 3 weeks ago and now they've got him because an acquaintance dobbed him in. It's another thing, their human nature and what people would do for money. But at the end of the day, I don't have an issue with it. If it means there's justice for Toyah, bring it on. Sometimes you do have to dangle a bigger carrot if you're not getting anywhere. And yeah, he fled, left his wife, left his family, his job, ran away like a horrible spineless coward. And there's gorgeous Toyah. She's a real beauty and a free spirit. And there's CCTV footage of her the day she was murdered in a farmer's market, loading up her basket with lots of beautiful fresh food. And she was just a gorgeous free spirit. Loved her dog, was on the beach, and this happened to her. This is the piece of shit. I mean, the POI, not the POS. That's clearly, he's been arrested because he's obviously sitting in a chair with cuffs on his hands. That's why his arms are like that. He's also gone out of his way to, I guess, change his appearance. He's grown his beard. There's photos of him when he was in Australia and he was clean shaven. She was only 24 years old, and yeah, they ended up having an argument. He was obviously angry. He'd had a fight with his wife. He's gone to the beach. Her dog started barking at him, and they had an argument. He became angered by that and then stabbed her multiple times, which is just senseless and horrible. And then he buried her naked body in the sand and tied her dog to a tree. And this is a photo from the CCTV footage of her at the farmer's market with her basket. You can't see it, but she's holding a basket, her arms through the basket, and it's full of fresh produce. So that was the last known sighting of her before she was murdered. Toyah's mother, Vanessa Gardner, has responded to Singh's arrest, thanking family and friends for ongoing support, but is also acknowledging the expectedly lengthy extradition process in Indian courts. So they've been told it's going to take a while, and it's because there's going to be a lot of, from what I've understand so far, a lot of diplomatic negotiations. We have actually got a bilateral extradition agreement with India. But despite that, there has to be a lot of negotiating before it will actually happen. And I did hear a report, might have even been in one of these articles, it could take up to 10 years, which is a horrible thought. Vanessa Gardner wrote, "We love you all." She posted on social media, "The next roller coaster ride is coming up." Oh, it's this article. Yeah. It could take as long as 10 years. So this is what he looked like when he was in Australia. And this is what he looked like when he was arrested. Pretty easy to go missing or invisible in India, especially if you've got places that are a bit remote, and you might even have someone sort of protecting you and sheltering you a bit. But yeah, he definitely went out of his way to change his appearance. 2 days after Toyah was found dead, he left Australia. And yes, recently the Queensland Police bumped the reward. It was actually, I thought, the Queensland Government, though, who funded it, for information of his whereabouts. And then someone who knew him gave away his location, and he was arrested when he rocked up to go to a doctor's appointment. Surprise. There's more beautiful photos of Toyah. She was a beautiful, much-loved person, just innocently going about her day. I'm so pleased we can now make further progress in bringing closure to her family. It was never a question of if, only when this day would come. And that, I think, is that police officer. Queensland Police Commissioner Katarina Carroll. She was the one in that little video I played at the start. State Police Minister Mark Ryan said the investigations involved hundreds of officers and thousands of hours. 3 Queensland detectives travelled to India this month to assist local authorities in their search for him. And that's the end of that article. So that kind of, she was beautiful. Hey, Lindy Lou. How you doing, Groover? Blue, hello to you. I've been over on the other page, late starter on 1.75. Do I sound like a chipmunk? So that's sort of the timeline, really, for the new subscriber who wanted to know the background, which I really love getting comments from you guys. And please, if you ever want me to dig deeper into something, or if there's a case you'd like me to look into, I really do want to do some Australian cases, because it's a bit different how we report on stories and stuff here and how much information's released. But we've had a few results this year with cold cases being, one leading, the best one was Chris Dawson, leading to a guilty verdict. So cases like this, it's worth, like, if I don't cover it at the time, and I'd only just really started doing YouTube when this happened, but it's certainly a story, and she's certainly someone I've thought of a lot. And I think it's to do with this Victoria Cafaso story in Tasmania. And I've often thought about doing a podcast about Victoria, but the more I started digging into that story, the more I realised that Beaumaris, where she was murdered on Beaumaris Beach, it's a very close-knit community, and people pretty much know who did it, but nobody will step up and say. And I don't know if it's a case that I really want to start being journalist hack with my little press pass and covering it, but I'll think about it. It's something I still feel I should do a podcast about it, but it might be a bad move because it's literally just a couple of hours up the road. Don't know. We'll see. I do know they have continued to investigate Victoria's murder, and in fact last year they ramped it up again. So the police have been actively trying to find her killer for a very long time. You want to do some Aussie cases too, Blue? Yeah, they have to throw the little press pass in. But yeah, so that's pretty much the story. It was only on Friday, the 21st of October, that ABC, the Australian Broadcasting Commission, did a story about how Toyah and her horrible murder was still being investigated without any results. I'll show you the article. I'm not going to read it to you, but just to give you an idea of how quickly things, they close ranks. And I don't know if it's really great to go up there and dig around, like whether people will want to speak to me and that sort of stuff. But I mean, I am thinking about it. It's bugged me for years. So yeah, I'll definitely cover it on this channel and see how everyone feels. But my understanding is, I mean, if the police aren't able to get the locals to crack and spill the beans, I don't think I'm going to have any luck. And also, I don't know who they think did it. So, I mean, what happens if I go up there and the first person I talk to is the person who did it? And then he finds out my name's Victoria as well. It could all get very weird. I get your vote for some Aussie cases. We'll be doing a lot of Aussie cases. I think it's good too, because I do think it's fascinating learning about cases in other countries as well. I mean, we all watch coverage of American cases, and largely my fascination is just because of how much information's put out there. I do want to do a live very soon, maybe not tonight, but maybe tomorrow night on the Idaho 4. It's not just YouTubers who are irresponsible. I listened to a media report today about that, and oh my God, it was the most irresponsible media reporting I've heard in a long time. It was disgusting, actually. These reporters were repeating facts that have been like debunked by the cops, and they're putting it out there as fact. It was really bad. I will be careful, Miss Kay. So this is the story from only 3 weeks ago in our press, talking about how Toyah's murder still remained at large 4 years after her death, and talks about how, you know, obviously the family still hopes that the killer will be brought to justice. It goes back through her story. It mentions Rajwinder Singh because he has been the person of interest from the start. A family spokesman, Wayne Prong Trimble, says the shocking crime continues to take a toll on Toyah Cordingley's family and the wider community. And then, this sort of extradition proceedings listed for the November the 5th, but the matter was going to be postponed if he wasn't located. And then the next article, only 2 weeks ago, and I did say this was going to be a quick live. I'm bouncing around like there's no tomorrow. Wrong article. Yeah, the privacy laws in America, it's freaky, isn't it, how much information? I don't know, imagine if people scream through bullhorns at people's homes in Australia, they'd be there 60 seconds before charges and fines. Yep. I need to bleach my hair and get my boobs out and my press pass before I head off to good comment, Lindy Lou. Although anyone watching this who's not in the really wackadoo true crime community on YouTube won't understand what any of this is about. I might stick to Toyah's story because I kind of want to have a chuckle with you about the stuff you're saying, but I'm also mindful of what I'm talking about right now, which is a very sad tale. But anyone that is watching this who doesn't know about the YouTube true crime community, it's an absolute shit show. I cover it on this channel, but there's plenty of other channels, big channels covering it too. It's terrifying what happens on YouTube. We're responsible here. But then on the 3rd of November, the reward was bumped up to $1 million. And there she is with her puppy. Hang on, I'll just play her parents talking about the reward. Am I sharing the screen with you guys? Yes, I am. I'll get myself out of the shot.
4 years too long, and I can't believe that they're actually putting out a reward. I'm hoping that someone will come through with information and Toyah gets justice that she deserves. Yeah, I know they haven't stopped. There's so much behind the scenes that people don't understand. There's so much stuff that you can't say to your family and friends, and especially about the reward. When I found out, I just wanted to tell everybody. I can't believe that it's $1 million, but Toyah deserves that. She deserves every bit of it. And I just hope that I get that call very soon to say that they found him.
Toyah was a young woman who will never get the chance to live a full life and all that that entails. Never get the chance to live, laugh, and love. Never get the chance to have children or grandchildren to grow old. She will never get the chance to live the life she deserved. This was taken away from her by a horrendous act and the person who committed it. This person is right now living free with no consequences for their terrible crime and could even be committing more atrocious acts. This is not acceptable. While justice will not bring Toyah back, justice is the very least that she deserves. At the very minimum, this person must be removed from society and held accountable for their crime. I sincerely hope that this reward goes a long way to achieving that goal.
So there you have it. And gosh, so much of what he was saying, and the mum too, how relevant that is to all of the cases that we see being followed on YouTube, and the way so many YouTubers who claim to be into true crime show absolutely no regard for the friends and family of the victims. So many things that he was saying just then, and the mum too. I was like, do people actually listen to the families of murdered kids and teenagers and the Idaho 4 and everyone else? Do they actually ever think about them? Because they certainly don't present on YouTube like they do. You never hear them really saying anything genuine and heartfelt about the pain that these people are going through. But I also wanted to say too that although it has been 4 years since she was murdered, like, this story is moving in the right direction towards getting justice for Toyah. And I know that there's a lot of frustration, for example, with the Idaho 4 murders and how nobody's been arrested yet. These investigations can take an incredibly long time. And even though a lot of information is available in American cases, the police don't tell everyone everything that they're up to and what they're doing. So patience is a virtue, people. Hopefully there will be an arrest in that one, though, because the thought of whoever did that wandering the streets at the moment is sickening. He was living and working in Australia as a nurse, Blue, and he fled the country 2 days after her murder. It happened in Australia at a beach just near Cairns. No, I don't apologise. I just went off on another tangent too. Look, it's all right. I think people that come into this channel, they'll learn about Toyah's story or this live, and they'll also learn some things about the true crime community or the true crimes, because they're not at all. They're sensationalistic channels. But no, don't apologise. I'm just very easily distracted, as you know, you cheeky monkey. But yeah, so that's essentially the senseless murder of Toyah and Cordingley. And I guess the next step will be seeing what happens with the extradition proceedings. I thought there was a typo in that article and that there was a hearing coming up on the 5th of December, but they were planning to do one on the 5th of November and then postponing it again if the person of interest hadn't been found. But the good news is he has now and is been arrested, and now the extradition wheels are going to start ticking over. But already it sounds like this could be a very lengthy process, and it's very, very dry, the whole extradition process. But we do have a bilateral treaty with India, so hopefully the wheels will start moving quickly. But like 10 years is pretty awful. I don't know if it brings the family some comfort, though. At least after 4 years they've got him and he's now arrested and he's going to be held until he's extradited. But one thing I did learn about extradition in Australia today is we Australians don't extradite anyone back to a country when the penalty is death. I did not know that. I did not know that. Because we don't have the death penalty here. So we will not extradite anyone back to a country where the death penalty is on the table. I thought that was really interesting. I'm wondering if each country gets to make decisions like that based on their legal system and not the rest of the world. Like, I found that really interesting. So maybe the extradition discussion won't be that dull, because that was something that I just discovered tonight. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. Go Australia. I'm all for that. Well, his motive was very pathetic. He had a fight with his wife. He went to the beach. He had some fruit and a kitchen knife with him, presumably to cut up the fruit and eat it. That's how I eat fruit. I don't think it's that weird. I've often taken a knife with me to the beach, now that I think of it. Like, we've taken pineapples and watermelons and stuff to the beach with a knife and cut them up fresh and eaten them while we've been down there. But anyway, her dog started barking at him and they had an argument and he lost it, stabbed her to death, buried her in the sand and tied her dog to a tree. You think each country has their... Well, each country, I think, can decide what extradition conditions they're going to agree to. But, yeah, we won't agree to extraditing anyone to a country, back to a country, if they're likely to face the death penalty. And I was like, go us. I think that's really cool. Hey, Casper. Hey, now. The death penalty is nuts. I know, I didn't know it either. We learn something new every day. In fact, before I wrap this up, we will just do a very quick little look at the wiki, which is where I found this information, I believe, or it might have been on one of the government department's websites, actually. I'm not sure. I did a bit of a bounce around. I've definitely got to do some research, but I think we'll follow it because it's kind of interesting. I mean, I think it's very interesting. People aren't going to watch me if they don't find it interesting. But, yeah, so extradition law in Australia, the formal process by which a fugitive found outside a jurisdiction surrendered where an alleged offence has taken place for trial or punishment. And then it talks about extradition between all the states of Australia. And then it goes into details about international extradition. And there's the Extradition Act of 1988. And I will read it because I'm into that stuff. That's where lawyers are really daggy. Oh, sorry. Like, that's my idea of a good night in, is reading an act I haven't read before, but I will read it. I want to know. But anyway, it sets out the requirements that must be met before Australia can make or accept an extradition request. And then there's different types of arrangements with different countries. But as far as Australia and India goes, we have what is known as a bilateral treaty. One of the requirements under this act, this Australian Act, is that the offence in the other country is not minor. So that's good too. Like, they're not going to extradite people for, I don't know, stealing a loaf of bread. It also ratifies the treaties to which Australia is a party. It talks about treaties that we're bound to with the United Kingdom as being part of the Commonwealth. And Australian law also prohibits anyone from being extradited to another country if they could face the death sentence in the requesting country. And then there's a map of countries. And if you look at India and click on that, we have extradition treaties with the countries shown in blue, and India's blue. And now how do I get out of that? There we go. And then it goes into the different extradition arrangements. And I'm going to have a bit of a bump around on the Attorney General's website because I found there was a lot of information on there. But up the top, it's got bilateral extradition treaties. And the little pop-up box, treaties with the Government of Australia that's entered into since the Federation of Australia in 1901. And India is sitting there in the list. So, yeah, we've all got a bit to learn about extradition treaties in Australia. I know, isn't it super cool how they found him there? Well, that $1 million reward. Yep. An acquaintance of him dobbed him in, and they rocked up when he was attending a medical appointment, and boom, arrested. You're coming back to Australia, mate, and you're not going to have a good time. So, yeah, and once again, I think if a reward being increased leads to information that leads to an arrest and a conviction and justice for the victim, bring it on. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have to pitch at the weaknesses in human beings, and a lot of people will sell their souls for money. Just look at YouTube. Yeah, imagine what they're going to be able to do with that in India. Be brilliant. It's going to be life-changing, hopefully. Hopefully the person that had the conscience did take a bit of extra carrots to be dangled, but they could do incredible things with that sort of money. But at the end of the day, if they want to buy a mega yacht and sail around the world for the rest of their life, well, so be it. So that's so far what I wanted to do with Toyah's story. I might, because I'm still kind of feeling perky and it's only 9 o'clock. I do want to, no, I'm not going to do a live. I'm going to spend some time with Sunny Bum. Sunny, have you got anything you want to say before we log off, boo-boo? Oh, Sunny. Oh, my God, the way she moved is like she's feeling me scratching her under her chin. You're probably a millionaire in India with it. You know it's $1 million reward, Casper. I don't know if you're being hilarious. I've been at work all day, so my brain is like, I mean, maybe I will. No, I won't. I'm going to hang out with my floof. Tours, I'm coming up on panel soon later in the week if you want. Regarding what, Casper? Which channel? Are we cooking? Are we true criming? And I'm talking the old style of true crime, you know, back in the days when we looked at the facts and theorized and speculated using the facts only. My hard times have changed. Whoever switched the true crime genre into this likable commercial sort of vibe, it's ruined it. I've got $1 million Australian. I'll do a conversion for you. $1 million. 1, 2, 3. Oh no. Indian rupee. It's 54. Hang on. 5,470,987 Indian rupee. No, it's not. It's 5 billion. Ah, why did you get me to do this? No, it's 5 million. 5.5 million. Is it billion? Oh, stop it. Casper, you do it. Yeah, I'm following it too, Casper. I definitely want to do a panel on it because it's very tragic. It's horrific. That is a horror movie. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. However, it's also horrible with how people are discussing it on YouTube, and not just people on like creators, but also the media in the US have got a lot to answer for. It's just horrific. It's all around horrific. One thing I would recommend though is check out, I want to get his channel. For those of you who are following it, I want to get out of my thing. Hang on. If you haven't subscribed to this channel too, please do. I suspect all of you groovers have. And if you ever feel like sharing channels or letting people know that there's, you know, some good channels out there that... This guy's surname, his name's Jimmy Law, but I can't remember his channel name. And it's not Jimmy Law. Scout Inquirer dropped the link in my live this morning. If anyone wants to, you should see how many Jimmy Laws there are. He's an investigator. Hang on, if I type in, who was the first person to do like the floor plan. Johnny, got it. G'day, Johnny. All right. So this was the guy that did the floor plan for the house in Moscow where the students lived. And I know Gray Hughes did a 3D thing today. I saw that pop up in my notifications. You sound like Finn, Blue. Yeah, the media, and that's the thing. Like, I've kind of been quite critical of the creators, and then I heard this media, a TV station today, talking about the Idaho. I was going to try to keep this to Toyah, and once again, look, I can always edit stuff. In fact, it's probably going to be better for me sometimes too, just to do a recorded video on this channel, because I'm so easily distracted. I'm so sorry if anyone is watching this and they just wanted to hear about Toyah. We have moved on to the tragic murder of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho, 2 weeks ago, and they still don't have a POI or suspect, as far as we know. So yeah, that was the link I just posted. There's a guy called Johnny Law, and he does the floor plan, and sort of, I know that Gray Hughes has done another one, but this guy did put this out a few days ago, and it just gives you an idea of the house better. But it also answers so many questions, but I don't want to go into it in any detail because I really did just want this to be a quick timeline covering Toyah Cordingley's story. So I am actually going to wrap this up because, yeah, we will talk about the Idaho 4 very soon because there's a lot of stuff I really want to talk about regarding that case. And I think if you do want extra information at the moment, if you're impatient because there isn't anything new, then watch channels like Johnny Law, because what he talks about and showing the floor plan and where all the bedrooms are and everything else, it's incredibly relevant. And I just wish these idiots who keep crapping on and on about it without even factoring something really important like that into their conversation, I wish they'd all wake up and just do some investigating and look at the facts that we have got available to us. So little plug for Johnny Law. But yeah, I'm going to end this live, guys, and hopefully the extradition process doesn't take 10 years and justice for Toyah Cordingley is achieved sooner rather than later. But I'm bailing groovers, so until next time, don't get hit by, don't get struck by smooth criminal. Good night, everybody.